Past week as part of the summit here, people have asked us our opinion about the kangaroo menace. Now, I must thank David Bagnall for drawing my attention to this and providing me with some extensive research, i.e. the front page of the Canberra Times on Sunday of April the 11th. A terrifically moving article by Bill Norman. And let's face it, I don't think I have to spell out the details of the menace, the details of the catastrophe, the details of the kangaroo plague, and I'm prepared to call it a plague that is sweeping here. I mean, when you look out in the audience, Roy, you look up there in the seats rows, let's say, E beyond, it's all kangaroos. Yeah. I mean, when people said that half the audience today would be kangaroos, I said, you know, that's not possible. I was tight-lipped and ashen-faced and described it as a wind-up. But now that I'm actually here in the Mall and can see at least half the audience full of kangaroos, I realise how difficult it is. Yes. I was in David Jones the other day, here in Civic. I saw a kangaroo shopping for a pair of braces. I thought, what is that kangaroo doing there? And I was one of the few people who took offence at it. Such is the scale of this plague that people are now accepting it. I ran it down. Obviously, I got it in the food hall down there, downstairs. It got away from me on 2 escalators. I simply jumped on it and bit it to death. People applauded because they thought, hello, here is somebody from out of town, obviously not blasé, not taking it lying down, not letting the roos run all over us, who's prepared to do something about it. I am vexed, though, by the problems of that. On one hand, we have obviously starvation as a choice because obviously eventually there'll be so many kangaroos and not enough food to go around and they'll be having eaten out the food hall down there by looking for something else and then it'll all be gone. Or shooting. That seems to be the only two. There is these technical things of stabbing them with a dart and then giving them a vasectomy each, which I think is a terrific idea. And Roy would be prepared to come down every other weekend and wield the knife in the vasectomy caper for the roos, which I think is a beautiful offer, Roy. And I do hope it gets taken up. But why not? Ladies and gentlemen, think of you European tourists who've never been close to nature before in their life. Why not organise special tours, Qantas, plane loads, straight into the Canberra airport there, extend the runway, sure.
Your Germans would
love to come out here on 2 counts, either to shoot them at Yarralumla from the front of the Governor House residence there, or simply to go up in the hills out the back here and have a look at them starving to death.
Yes.
Is that too harsh, Roy?
No, it's very difficult to be humane in the manner in which you execute your kangaroo. I've, tried many experiments, many different ways of getting rid of kangaroos, just bludgeoning them with a couple of bricks, severing heads with guillotines. A panel saw I find is very, very useful, but it's difficult to lay their heads on the base. They resist this as an idea. It's so easy to be anthropomorphic. You know, I saw faces in the mob. I cried when little Jaffa didn't quite make it through the night. It's a very difficult problem, but I think you can be humane in the way you do it if you use, say, a bullet that's big enough to blow a big enough hole. And there are bullets that can do that. I often find, just with your 3.0 or your .22, your .22, if you just drill a little hole in the front and snub it a little bit, dum-dum style, that tends to not only bring your bunny down, but it'll bring down a roo without any trouble at all. That is, if you're not going to eat it, because the slug tends to explode, or the pill explodes once it goes in. But I think if you get to know your kangaroos, I found it the best method to be humane about it and talk them through it. If you get out there with a mob, and, I've done it many times, you dress up, you put on the funny suit, they're prepared to accept you after a few months of living as they do. Then very, very, very quietly, when the mob's together, you just, you simply say, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to shoot you now. You're going to have to die. They come around to your thinking reasonably easily, and they're stupid buggers, because once you've banged one off, say, in a mob, the rest are interested. You know what I mean? They just come sniffing around. And you can have all, I love like tying a couple of the back of the to the back of the car, a couple of dead uns, and just cruising slowly through the bush, and it's like a lure. Out they come, the stupid buggers, out for a sniff. Next thing you know, bang, 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 it's Fun City, and you've done an enormous amount of good. Now, in certain areas of Australia, eating kangaroo is absolutely acceptable. It's legal. You're allowed to have beautiful fillets of joey, and they taste tremendous, especially if you can, get a joey inside its mum and cook the pair together. You get some interesting. You can get a surprise. Don't tell me your German tourists wouldn't be surprised if they just ordered a big 'un. Go in with your first chop And out there's a little one in there, rare in more ways than one. I think there is a way of doing it. I think Australia's got to bite the bullet. I think we've got to arm the population. And whenever you see one of the buggers, bang it off. I think we have a duty. A duty. And as you say, tourists would love it. Your Germans would love it. Don't tell me your Japanese wouldn't love it. Your Nordic people would love it. As soon as they file through the airport, they're given a rifle, given a licence to get out there and bang. And sure, maybe you'll have a quota. 200 each.
On the first day?
On the first day, 200 each. They would love it. People would be queuing to get in here and get involved with a good old Australian bang. A bang in Canberra. I think it'll be tremendous.
Well,
it's only government opposition.
Yeah, true.
It's only,
true.
like Rosemary Follett, you talk to her, she goes blank.
Yeah. She doesn't see it from your side, though, Rob.
She's never been out there on the bang. She's never been out there.
What I must say about this article, though, is the tremendous idea that humane shooting is the only sensible solution.
Yeah.
Now, this is a new idea to me.
Humane shooting?
Yes.
Yeah.
What do they laugh all the way as the bullet approaches them? They get the giggles and it just comes slowly across the dust and eventually goes straight in. Troy Streets and Coolner. It's going to be a terrific afternoon. I know you're going to bring a couple of sheep down and do a bit of demonstration slaughtering during the afternoon.
Well, we'll begin with crutching.
Crutching,
then shaving the gear off with your old-fashioned clippers, your old-fashioned shears, your old hand-driven shears, not your new gear, and then we'll give a demonstration of blooding an animal. Then Dropbox style, a bolt. Give it a bolt. Then we'll show different cuts of meat. Once we've taken Mr. Sheepy's pyjamas off, we can then get into a little bit of serious gear with the demonstration of the different cuts. Like a lot of kiddies wouldn't know where you get your
hogget shoulder chop,
especially
on spring lamb,
short loin lamb cutlet. Well, we might get a lamb as well as a sheep.
I'd love to see you do the three generations. I'd love to see you do lamb. I'd love to see you do hogget, and I'd love to see you do mutton.
Yeah.
And show the different techniques that you used, because let's face it, they're all different skills.
Well, it is true. We could make a nice mutton soup using the mutton bones. That might be nice. With the sheep, we could get the shanks and make a nice. We might be able to sew together a nice bit of brisket, and then with the lamb. Well, I suggest we just take its pyjamas off and throw it on the frying pan. I think that's the best way to have it. So and if there are any kiddies or parents with kiddies who might be interested in getting into the...
It'll be hands-on for the kiddies.
It will be hands-on.
Under fives, we'll give them a boning knife each. And probably be able to have enough ropeable steers there and potty calves to let them have a good fiddle about.
Yes. Well, if people want to come along bringing pets that they'd like to be made...
Put to rest in the nicest way possible.
Yes, and something useful made of them. We might be able to make some moccasins with the skins, etc., etc. If we can cure them fast enough, if there's a bit of a breeze blowing, we might be able to just hang them out of the pub there, and you get that nice salty spray coming along, which
St Kilda Beach.
With St Kilda Beach there, which will, I think, cure the skins very, very swiftly. And we might be able to sew up. Sure, they might contract a little bit, but if you leave them on while they're fully curing, leave them on for a couple of weeks, then they'll fit snug as a bug. And I recommend that for anyone if they really want close-fitting moccasins, sheep moccasins. Then it'll work. So come along. It should be a terrific afternoon.
So then, coming back to the word guru and flies, I've never connected those two before, quite in the way that Tom Gorman has.
Yeah.
And he's certainly got me reassessing.
Well, I think a guru simply is a wise teacher, a wise instructor, someone who's learned some of the mysteries and secrets of life. And let's face it, with someone like Neil Fraser, for whom you and I have particularly had the most enormous respect for many, many years and have been very, very supportive of Neil, especially when you've had people breathing down his neck, people of lesser talent, people who are just destructive, trying to destroy his position to create an opportunity for themselves. And I think, J.A., I know you're listening. I include you in that lot. People who've been doubters, people who've taken their own self-doubt and aimed it at Neil Fraser as an excuse. Neil is a tremendous man. He's a charming gentleman. He's someone who knows tennis more than anyone else that I think exists on the planet. And this is what makes him a guru. I remember when I was being coached by Neil Fraser, and I'm very, very happy to say that I had the opportunity to spend some time with Fraser during the old Milo tournaments. And when Neil came, a couple of things that stuck in my mind and that I still adhere to, that I've lived with forever with tennis. And these, I'm sure, are some insights into the game that Neil got from the Hop. That's Harry Hopman, who, you know, is the guru of all gurus. If say Harry Hopman was Jesus Christ, you'd have to say that Fraser was like St. Peter or St. Paul, i.e. often went off half-cocked. But anyway, I remember Neil saying to me all those years ago, he said, Roy, always keep your frame clamp dry. Now, and I think this is something that can be passed on to kiddies today with their rackets. Of course, in those days we had the timber rackets, and you'd have a timber frame with you that you would clamp it in when you'd finished playing with it so it wouldn't go out of shape. Now, what the current players, the modern players, your Mark Woodfords, even your Wally Masseurs, would make of that sort of advice from Fraser, I'm not too sure. He used to always say, Roy, if you're using whitener on your sand shoes, do your laces as well. I mean, just little hints like that that make the life of a tennis player so much simpler. If you're away on tour, put your shorts under the mattress so that they're crisp and straight when you get up the next morning. You know, little homespun little ideas of the game that he would have got from sitting around at the feet of Harry Hopman all those years ago. And it's good to know that these ideas are being passed on. No wonder Australian tennis. I mean, given these sorts of ideas, it's no surprise that we're 2 up. It's no surprise we're 2 up against arguably the most powerful tennis nation in the world, i.e. the United States. Sure, they might have brought out a couple of duds in Gilbert and Wheaton who ate each other's guts, and we might be able to talk about the fights that have been going on, you know, one going to one room, one to the other, you know, tearing it apart, trying to get at each other, you know, with their frames, etc. But I think Australia has done very, very well. And I'm very proud of the performance Australia has put in with the Super Woodies and Wally Masseur. And I think you'd have to say that Neil Fraser has got to be the reason this has happened. Now, sure, people can laugh at an old balding bloke who used to bash a ball around all those years ago who was a left-in and now sits on a lounge chair. People can laugh at that, but I don't. Because I have a little bit of respect. You know, it's all well and good for President Suharto and for Paul Keating to toss out your silver-haired, your experienced, your wisdom, throw it out and bring in the new young bucks and young blood. But I think there's a time and place for a little bit of experience, for a little bit of wisdom. Sure, for a bloody guru. There's a time and place for a guru. And I think Australian tennis has arrived at a time where we do need a guru. And J.A.'s not a guru.
No.
Neil Fraser is.
Yeah.
He's the only guru in the world
Yeah.
when it comes to tennis. Tom Gorman's not a guru.
No.
John McEnroe's not a guru. Fred Stolley's not a guru.
No.
Neil Fraser is the guru. And it's at Neil Fraser's feet that anyone interested in tennis should be bent over, bums in the air, kissing and sniffing his socks. So much has that man done for Australian tennis. And whatever he's done, all through there be people sniggering, pointing, doubters, hurtful people hurling abuse at a man who's worn the spit like a golden jacket that fits him oh so beautifully. I love Neil Fraser. And I won't have it be said that Neil Fraser has been in any way destructive towards Australian tennis. Neil Fraser is Australian tennis. It is an old, hobbling, former lefty, asleep, a snooze on an old sofa in the middle of a green sward being watched by very few.
Well, Roy, apart from that, you know, a tremendous endorsement. I think you and me will both agree that he's far too old for the job and it's been an absolute joke. And his training methods of getting kiddies to walk around lugging big crosses made out of wood up and down Flinders Street in Melbourne hasn't worked. His idea of sending Wally Masseur for 40 nights into the Simpson Desert hasn't worked. His idea of nailing Mark Woodford to a cross for 3 days and 3 nights and setting him up on the south bank of the Yarra there, just near the MCG, hasn't worked.
Trying to get Wally Masseur to walk across the Yarra all the time, that hasn't worked.
And I was going to say, the other thing is that I never forget this, and this was a very sobering lesson to me. I went to him as a young kiddie saying, Neil, you know, love your work, love your teaching.
Love your gear.
Yeah, love you, man. And I said, I'm still having trouble with my foot faulting on my second serve. And he looked at me.
He said, oh, ye of little faith?
Yes, indeed. He said, oh, you little faith, up there will angels sing. Now, what happened was that he said, go away for 3 days and come back. And so I went away for 3 days and came back and nothing had improved. And I said, why did you send me away for 3 days, Neil? And he said, well, I hadn't given up and corrected that fault in my own game.
Yeah.
And
well, that's honesty, isn't it?
It is honesty.
You know, they reckon, and when I say they, I'm talking Cashy. Cashy reckons he saw Neil Fraser sitting on a pillow, you know, squat style.
Yeah, yoga style.
Yoga style.
Lotus
position.
Yeah.
But he was 3 feet above it.
Oh, well, that'll be right. Levitating. That's what he's doing in the chair most of the time. You don't realise.
He's not on it.
No, he's
about a millimetre
it's
above
prop.
it, isn't he?
Yeah, they can take the chair away and
Yeah,
he'll
he
stay
stay
there.
there.
The other thing I was going to say was that, I have seen Neil Fraser, this is for a fact, I have seen Neil Fraser, assume the position, so to speak, standing...
Load aside or standing
Slow
up?
aside, and put the hands in the air, the arms in the air, and then about another 20 other arms come out the back. And stuff like that. It's tremendous
I've
trick.
seen that.
And with the three faces up the front.
I've seen that.
Vishnu, Krishna,
That's
and
right. Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
other ones called on the other side, his name I always forget. I've seen that. And I thought, hello.
I saw him close both his eyes once, and one in the middle of his head opened up. No, truly.
Yeah.
He's an amazing bloke.
Yeah.
Very, very funny bloke at the same time. Lively bloke. No, I love Neil. He can get away with anything as far as I'm concerned. I love listening to him. I love... And, I saw him once at the fish markets.
Oh, no, don't tell me. I've seen this too. You got a couple of loaves of bread, you were having people coming over, ended up about 500.
He had one
fish.
one flatty.
And
a
loaf.
flathead. He had a couple of, I don't know, you might have a barramundi. And next thing you know, 100 people come, all the tennis players,
Yeah, they can... Nuke style.
Lou Hode.
Yeah.
Rosewell, big eaters.
Yeah.
Yeah, big
men. Fit men still.
Big fish eaters.
Yeah.
Can't get enough fish.
Yeah.
I said, no, you've only got 2 fishies. He said, don't worry, my boy. My boy.
Yeah.
Mark you, my boy.
We're on Easy Street here, Roy.
That's right. Next thing I walked out of the kitchen just for a tick, I had to scratch myself. And came back in. There's Neil. And honestly, there's Neil sitting, guru style, cross-legged, lotus, all the hands, funny eye, toga, light coming out of his ears, sitting on a mound that must be about 50,000 fish.
Well, that's Neil.
That's Neil.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing bloke. And, it disappoints me that he's not given the sort of acknowledgement that he deserves.
But what sort of acknowledgement could you give him? Like a bank? The Neil Fraser Bank or something like that? I mean, how in this world would you honour a person with that sort of command of, the universe?
Yeah.
Is that being too rich?
No,
Is that laying it on too thick?
But it sounds to me, one
what do you
of
do,
these
give him a
days,
car?
Neil's just going to, stand up and disappear into a cloud.
There will be, sorry.
Then we'll be rules, and people are going to say, Neil, why didn't you appreciate him?
Speaking of tremendous news on the football front, and this does give me a terrific thrill to be able to announce this, there's a new Wally Lewis book out. Adrian McGregor's done 5 already, and the 6th one is about to come out.
Isn't that good news? Timely, too, with the State of Origin come out with Wally as coach.
It's called The Emperor, Wally Lewis.
Oh, The Emperor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, already, total sales of the first 5, King Wally, Wally and the Broncos, Wally Goes Away for the Weekend, Wally and the Secret 5, Wally and the Hawaiian Earthquake.
Wally and Fraser.
Wally and Fraser, the Guru Speaks, have sold 85 million books around the world and been translated into 115 languages, 15 of which hadn't existed until there was a need to translate the...
they hadn't formally been put in print. They were languages that existed only in speech.
Yeah, like the Walpuri.
Yes.
I don't know whether the Walpuri language exists in print yet, but...
Wontok, for example, in New Guinea, I only think got
Is
put
a
on
spoken.
paper, yes. It means literally one speak, I think, or one talk, one language. I don't think it was until the 50s till it actually got transcribed onto the printed page. As you say, up until then it was just an oral language. Well, I'd like to think that the Wontok version of the Emperor was available.
It is. Now, 85 million books have been sold by Adrian McGregor on the subject of Wally, and the new one, The Emperor, Wally Lewis. Well, there's a lot of stories here that I'm looking forward to reading about with enormous enthusiasm, including the sacking of the Broncos captain,
Oh, that's an interesting chapter. Yes.
cut from the football club he loved,
Yes.
the shock exclusion from the 1990 Kangaroos,
Yes.
his final crowning triumph
Discovered nude
at
in Ann Street.
and fishing on Stradbroke Island. Wally pulls in a whopper. The day I went,
Wally's biggest catch.
Wally at Byron Bay.
Yes. Wally and the tailor.
That's
New
right,
trousers.
That's right, Wally and the tailor. Where did the new trousers come from? The Catalina Bar. The night I spent in the Catalina Bar,
Yes.
Byron Bay, where he ran amok with a football, a student.
That's right. Wally and Rosie's.
Wally and Rosie's, the facts.
The facts. Who was hiding behind the fern?
Who went to
near
the toilet?
ladies' toilets?
Yes, who went to the toilets. Now, the award-winning journalist, obviously award-winning because of his previous work with Wally and the Secret 5, Adrian McGregor tells for the first time the dramatic events of the Emperor's last year.
Well, Asio was involved. Is there another book, Wally and Asio?
Yeah, Wally in Japan. Struggling both
Because Asio
against...
thought he was a communist. I think that was it.
He was certainly on their list. When the Petrovs flew,
Yeah.
the first person they named was Lewis.
Wally Lewis.
Yes. How about this? Struggling against both politics and pain. Lewis fought to regain his reputation as the country's finest footballer. Was that ever in doubt?
It's certainly great. Look, I have read an advanced copy of it. It is a great read, and even for people who've never heard of Wally Lewis, and I know there are in what used to be the Soviet Union, there are many states there that wouldn't have heard as much about Wally Lewis as they would have liked. And I know certain copies of this program do go to next to Azerbaijan, Tajikistan, etc., just alert people there, if you are listening when the tapes arrive, that we're hoping to send copies over as soon as we can. We'll certainly send Adrian McGregor over as an advance force. He can talk about it, on local television programs, talk backstage, local Bert Newton sort of shows, breakfast shows, to talk about Wally, because it is, I think there's a lot to be learned. It's a universal story.
Oh, it is.
It's a universal story about a man who was born, if anything, too gifted. Too gifted. And once you link up, say, the Neil Fraser story, again, too gifted. And one of these days, I'd like to think that Wally will be seen cross-legged, sitting somewhere, on rose petals, with a lot of people, really listening to what's going on, coming out of Wally. The sort of gear that comes out unspoken. I've often found it's just better to listen to Wally when he's got his mouth closed, because you learn a hell of a lot more often than you do when he's actually trying to put things into words.
Hula Strike, Roy.
Oh, Hula Strike was a beautiful horse, a very listening sort of animal, quiet, passive, just got on with the job, a sort of tradesperson sort of horse. No nonsense, no mucking about, dealt in straight lines, not in curves. That's what I liked about Hula Strike, and it did when the news broke, when, we opened up the back of the float and just saw a dead horse there. There was an enormous disappointment, I must say. But I blame the training techniques, HG. I think you've got to train a horse for a float. When I was training years ago, as soon as it flopped out, as soon as a pony, just came out right at birth, as soon as it, flopped onto the ground, I used to have a car there, and I'd have it flop onto the car bonnet and immediately put the car in reverse. Sure, it would fall off every now and again, but getting its legs in those early days, I found if you got it to get its legs while in motion, travelling about, say in the back seat or in the front seat or on the bonnet or on the roof, it took to a float like a duck to water. Loved a float because it felt even more secure in a float. I used to love driving into town with a horse on the bonnet. Just sitting there looking in at you. With that sort of, when are we going to stop look about it? And every now and again you would bloody stop.
And you go flying off.
You go flying off.
Yeah. Then you clamp it back on to the next set of lights.
That's right. That's right. Sure, you lost a few.
Yeah.
Few didn't make it. Laws of Darwinian laws that only the fit are going to survive. But I think only the fit should get into a float. I think if your horse is not float fit, if your horse isn't float fit, you should march it all the way up the Hume.
Yeah.
Say from Melbourne to Sydney, Sydney to Canberra, wherever you want to go. I think you use that as your training method. You just hop on and run the bugger like buggery until you arrive. Until it thinks to itself, well, maybe the float isn't such a bad idea. Especially if you've got the float just in front of you, tantalisingly just sort of wiggling at its hips as you go around the corner.
Yes, with the tailgate down.
With the tailgate down, dragging, creating sparks. I think it goes back to training. And if David Hayes was involved in the death of Hula Strike, then I blame David Hayes. And I'd like to see him up before some sort of AJC. Yeah. I'd like to see him before some committee. Yeah. I think the Connections would like to see him before some committee. I mean, how do you explain that to Connections? Sorry, the horse died of car sickness in the back of the float. They wouldn't believe you. Sorry, mate, I just don't think it's right.
Hey, and the best week since we became stuck in the logjam of another State of Origin build-up, and all the State of Origin matches played this century, this 1993 build-up has been, without a doubt, simply the best. But my very dear friends, I am down on my knees with my head off, with my pants round the ankles and the buttocks spread, pleading, no, I'll go further than that, begging with writers and journalists from all the papers, all the hacks on the radio stations and the reporters on television outlets, please, I repeat, please do not talk to backdoor Benny Elias anymore about State of Origin. The bloke has said far too much already and buggered up the Blues' chances of winning at Lane Park in the past for 5 decades, and on it goes in 1993. When will our nightmare end, ladies and gentlemen? Surely right as you can ring someone else apart from Backdoor to get a comment on the coaching style of the former king, Wally Lewis, the Lang Park hoodoo, the lacquer room on the bus, the winning diet, the facts that the Blues have not won in the Calder any time during the past century. And Benny, Benny, I know you're listening out there, Backdoor. When the hacks ring, just simply pick up the phone and say, Backdoor here, I have simply no comment. It's that easy. Benny, let me take you through it this time here on the radio, This Sporting Life. Benny, take a minute. Settle yourself down. You're centred. Now you breathe. Focus on the sound of the phone ringing. Ring, ring. That's the phone. That's right, Ben. It'll be a reporter wanting you, Backdoor. Pick it up, Benny. In your mind, Benny. Sit there. Concentrate. Ring, ring. Pick up the phone. The receiver. Simply say, hello, Backdoor Benny here. You'll hear a voice on the other end, something along the lines of, hello, Backdoor. Ray Chesterton from the Telly Mirror here. Door, do you have any thoughts on the aphrodisiac qualities of the maroon Guernsey? This is your part, Backdoor. It's coming up right now. Repeat after me. Ray, I have no comment. Bye now, and hang up. Repeat again with me, Ben. It's simple. It's that simple. Ray, I have no comment. Bye now. Click. Feeling better, Benny? More on Benny's brilliant thoughts on the Origin series later in the show. Elsewhere on...
Let's go back. Let's go back. It's Comfy Eyes Buggery. It's Comfy Eyes. It's Comfy Eyes. Let's go back.
Why did you turn to the Lithgow Bank, Roy?
Oh, very good question, Paul. Look, they've only got one branch, but whenever you pop in with, say, a sugar bag full of small change, they'll stop what they're doing immediately and count it for you on the spot by hand while they massage your back with their feet. Now, that's the sort of personalised, know your customer service you don't see these days with your big city banks, Paul. Any massages I had with Westpac or Macquarie, I had to pay for.
Do they wash your car, Roy?
Well, that was the other thing, Paul, that sent my money as well. Home. As soon as I pulled up, the manager stripped off, totally buffed, wedged a cake of soap between the crack, hurled himself at the car with the hose strapped to his forehead, screaming out, "Look out, dirt! Here I come!"
It must have caught you by surprise the first time, Roy.
Well, it did, Paul, it did. But I read about it in the bank's prospectus, so I was half expecting it.
The Lithgow Bank, where the back door is always open.
Is there any, I mean, I've never heard of Elvis as a truck driver. I mean, was this a one-off?
Elvis as a truck driver is well documented.
Is it?
Yeah, remember when he, Sam Phillips found him? Well, he didn't find him. He went into Sun to record his song for his mum.
For his mum. Happy birthday.
Whatever it was, Yeah. I think he did a cover of the Vinyls, that song, Only the Lonely, for his mum. Now, he was driving a truck in those days.
Touch Myself.
Touch Myself, yeah. Elvis did that on the B-side,
right.
Happy Birthday on the top side. Yeah, good. It's a beautiful present. The mum got a bit of a surprise when she put it on.
When she flipped the disc.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
But I just got out Only the Lonely, even if that is a Vinyl song.
Yeah.
I Touch Myself, that's right. Well, it's not about A-B combination, Happy Birthday on the top, with Mother's Day in mind. If people are thinking of making a song.
I Touch Myself.
That's right. That's right. But going back, obviously he had to earn the money somehow. And he was a truck driver to buy the record. He was a truck driver when he came in. And it's well documented that Elvis, used to do the deliveries in the Memphis area. A lot of people liked him and thought he made a good truck driver and probably would have been a lot happier just being a truck driver.
Did he have a Class 3 or 4 licence? What was the story?
I think he had a Class 3 licence. He couldn't do any articulated work, if that's the term.
So he
prime
wasn't so
mover.
hot, say, with your 16, 14-wheeler?
No. He couldn't do a prime mover. He could just do a 3-ton tray.
Yeah.
And although I think that is an interesting area of, interest in having a look at who taught him to drive, where he got the licence from, who examined him, what they thought of him, did they think he was going to be a world-class singer, things like that. Because often it's writ large, maybe he was doing a test and, singing classics like, I don't know, I Like It Both Ways, Jump in the Car, things like that as he did the test.
As he did the test, and someone would have noticed what the person who was inspecting him.
Yeah, well, I think that's all yet to be done.
Holy dooly,
This boy
you
can
should
sing. Yeah, forget the truck caper.
Yeah.
I know, just the bloke, Sam Phillips, down there on whatever it is street in Memphis.
Hey, careful, watch this, but too late. So there were 2 people in you.
Yeah, that's right.
Tom and the mystery bloke.
Yeah, the examiner. I'd love to think if he could have run over Jerry Lee Lewis, it would have helped life a lot more.
Well, it would have made him a lot more popular earlier on.
Now, we're lucky enough this week to visit the home of David Deng Rirong, the 49-year-old Taiwanese billionaire who's filled his palatial home with furniture, accessories and even 2 toilets made of solid gold. He's described as the world's richest man. He's up over the billion, a couple of...
I thought the Sultan of Brunei was numero uno.
So did I. He must be...
This bloke, his gear sort of matches the Sultan's, doesn't it?
Indeed, he's in the city of Taipei, lives in the city of Taipei, downtown Taipei, surrounded by priceless artworks, custom-made furniture and extravagant gold trinkets encrusted with precious jewels, especially the toilets. The only thing David enjoys as much as gold is his music and his his idol. Wait for it. Guess who his idol is?
Elvis Presley?
The well-known
Truck
murderer.
driver.
The well-known truck murderer. He even has
Blunt instrument to use. Isn't
Oh,
it?
it is.
I wonder
It
if
is.
he did
But you never
Andropov.
get caught.
Did he do? Might have done Andropov.
Well, I think there is talk that he...
Elvis, the mystery trip to Russia.
Yeah, that's the story yet to
And
be
the
told.
hiring of the truck.
Yeah, indeed. Well, from Avis, the first the first truck ever rented in the Soviet
Mr.
the Union.
E.A. Presley.
That's right.
And he had it for 4 hours.
Yes. Came back blood spattered on the front. Instead, he hit a kangaroo. Didn't surprise anybody in the Avis truck rental firm.
Oh, another one. Oh, yeah.
That's three this week.
Yeah, bad luck, Mr. Presley. Sorry, we'll hose it off.
Well, I think there's the story about how he was a serial killer in Germany yet to emerge. Guess what the weapon was? A Mack truck.
Well, it couldn't have been a Mac.
No,
Too big. Would be one of your army trucks.
GHC or whatever it is.
Your army truck.
Oh, an army truck. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, true.
That Elvis, he's gone again with the truck.
Yeah, it's the fourth time this week.
He's up so late, hosing it out. Hosing it off.
One of
Always
the-
washing that truck, the
Yeah,
front end.
That's right. Yeah.
Sometimes he's underneath hosing.
Yeah. Well, there is stories that, in fact, he was returned to America because the population was being decimated in Germany around the base, and they couldn't work out who it was, but they thought they'd seen the whole...
That's right, within half a petrol tank full. The whole perimeter.
Yeah, that's right. 14,000 people gone. Now, he even has a king, a solid gold record. It's the king's first gold record by the king. The first gold record.
Happy birthday. I touch myself.
Yeah, back with I Touch Myself. That's the gold album. Solid gold statuette of the king. He's got many golden rooms. When Roy and I dropped in, Davey welcomes him with a gold note. He gave us a gold fridge this time, actually, or at least an esky. And never mind the silver spoon. It's gold or nothing else when Dave dines.
What I love about his roller is it's got a gold donk. Isn't that amazing? You wouldn't think...
It's got, obviously, gold place settings and so on.
But I thought the melting point of gold was actually much lower than, say, your other metals, which made it unusable, really.
Oh, he's got a cooling system. A gold cooling system. Liquid gold cooling system.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Now he's...
This is David Rouron.
Rouron, yeah.
David
He's got a
Tang Rouron.
bathroom. It contains two solid gold dunnies. They're Fowlerware. Designed by David himself, knocked up by Fowlerware in Victoria. One weighing a whopping 147 tonne and the other one 149 tonne. He leaves home in a Rolls Royce stretch limo for quick trips, and the most expensive car in the world. The limo comes complete with gold records by the king, gold stereo to play the Kings, 3 TVs to view the king, a bar to buy the king drinks should he drop in, a sink so as he can wash his hair and do his hair like the king, obviously a bed, fax machine and 3 separate telephone lines. The ever safety conscious David Rouron has a bulletproof and bomb-proof and rocket-proof limo, although I think Elvis on a truck could make short work of it.
Of course he would.
Now, what do you think, Roy? Has David Tang Rouron gone too far? Or does it look good
well,
with him?
looking at those pictures, I like the two toilets beside each other with just a little flimsy partition, and obviously there's a gold window, where if you did have a guest, say,
Yeah.
and say it was Elvis, didn't matter, and they said, "Excuse me, could you show me where the smallest room in the house? I think I've got to go." Then you say, "Well, I'll come with you." And you slip in, one beside the other, and you can continue your conversation.
Do you know what scares me about this? Is when the shark and Jack Nicklaus figures it.
Well, they'd go in, they'd be like twins, wouldn't they? They'd be
If you just
sitting there, going pound for pound.
carpet for carpet. Or carpet tile for carpet tile. But, you know, it does get a bit much. You know, you look at this room here, you wouldn't know where the eye would settle. I'm looking at a sort of what I'd describe as a
Gold
sort
table with
full
a lot
of
of gold knickknacks.
goblets and a gold mantelpiece with a lot of gold things, and outside there seems to be more gold, and Dave's relaxing with a gold knife, Sultan of Brunei style, in a gold chair with a gold jewellery on and gold glasses and gold head. And
Gold teeth.
You come to the bedroom.
Gold underpants.
I mean, if that wouldn't put you off, you know, using the night tools, I don't know what would.
No, it's Michael Jackson gone mad, isn't it?
Tigers on the floor.
Michael's gear looks very
Tame.
tasty.
It's got, very, very subdued in hand.
Muted.
Yeah, it's got a lion skin rug on the floor and a couple of tigers.
With its
standing
eyes
up.
taken out and a couple of gold coins put in them.
Another couple of tigers each side, and a lot of ornate
Beaten
chins.
gold around the ceiling.
Look at this, here's something.
He's got Tutankhamun's bloody
face
money
mask, death
covered in
marks.
gold.
Well, it's a bit too much for me. But I like the bloke. I like the bloke. You couldn't meet a nicer bloke.
Ah, lovely bloke. I mean, he thinks of others.
This has been taken some places. Sydney's Olympic bid office will ship a blockbuster show of 10 major Australian paintings valued at more than $130 billion to a new Olympic museum to open in Lausanne, Switzerland on June the 23rd.
Oh, isn't that good?
Now, I don't know whether we're going to get them back, but the collection of the entitled The Candidate Cities of the 2000 exhibition includes...
Well, each city is putting up some artworks.
Yeah, some artworks. Wait till you hear of the paltry contribution that we've got. We've got Tommy Roberts' The Golden Fleece. We've got a couple of desultory works by Big Artie Streeton. We've got Sidney Nolan and the whole Ned Kelly collection. Well, that doesn't have to come back for mine.
Well, they have a room big enough for those Ned Kellys. I mean, there are hundreds of bloody things.
Grace
Did you ever do anything else?
No. Grace Cossington Smith, of course, an absolute find, and that'll impress them no end. Johnny Olsen, Clifford Possum and Tim Lura are going as well, some works from them. And we spoke to Eddie Capon exclusively for The Life, who's on the cultural committee of the Sydney Olympic 2000 bid. He said, this is important, we're not going to send them an old heap of junk, we're going to send the best we can. I said, hang on a minute, Eddie, hang on a minute. We had a hint of what the other contending cities were sending, and we had to be up to the mark. This whole thing is about trying to upstage others, isn't it? I know Manchester is sending some rather good pre-Raphaelite pictures. Rather good pre-Raphaelite pictures? I mean, there's not a bloody good pre-Raphaelite picture ever created.
No.
I mean, Holman Hunt was a joke.
Yeah, Hunt, yeah.
An absolute joke. Those sheep on the hillside. I mean, I wish he'd never done it. China can send its marching warriors, I think he means the Entombed Warriors statues, and a few other things.
No sense of perspective, you pre-Raphaelite.
He says 140 million, obviously we're sending 130 million, so it's close there, the Terracotta Warriors. China also intimated earlier this year they would like to donate the Warriors to the Olympic Museum, which is obviously
Well,
good.
knew that, yeah.
Well, how about one, I think Ivan Durant, Slaughtered Cow, the one he dumped on the Melbourne Art Gallery steps all those years ago, that'd be the sort of thing that'd get people sitting up and taking notice. Tom Roberts, last year's model.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
Would anybody in Lausanne know who Tommy Roberts was and what he means to Australia?
Yeah, they just snigger at it, wouldn't they?
They'd like,
I mean, I would have thought the obvious thing to send would have been, Brett Whiteley, sure, he's not with us anymore.
Send Brett?
Well, sure.
In the
you
box?
could send him in the box, sure, Digman. But there's been a whole, sure, there's a lot of conjecture as to who ultimate ownership of the mysterious new find of Brett Whiteley works,
yes,
which are known as the dirty paintings. They're very, very lewd. I think they...
How lewd?
Well... the bits and pieces, well, they make,
seem tame.
Yes, very tame indeed. The Brett Whiteleys I've seen, I mean, I just blanched. My face went white.
Did you have to sit down?
I had to sit down. Well, it was too lewd. It was sick lewd. That's how lewd. We're talking Hugh Hefner on acid lewd. Very, 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 very lewd. But tremendous work.
Oh, obviously, tremendous
beautifully
work.
done.
Yeah, paintily.
Painterly,
Yeah.
beautifully
Every
done.
detail there.
Yeah.
Why aren't they going
and a bit
though,
of decoupage, coming out of the bits of buttocks actually 3D'd on the canvas. Squeezed on. He's obviously painting with enormous tubes. So they're as tactile as anything else. And I can just see Juan Antonio
Going up.
and
having sniff.
fiddling with the buttocks on the canvas, because they do demand that sort of thing, I think. The Whiteleys. They're paintings to be fiddled with, paintings to be felt.
But can you exercise to them?
Of course you can do what you like with them. And they're very robust, too, I've been given to understand. They'd have to be. They would. With the,
But why aren't these going?
Well, they should be going. I mean, sure, it's up in the air as to who owns them, whether it's,
The daughter or the wife or the girlfriend.
Sure. And, it's choked up in the courts. But I would have thought if Roddy McGeoch had got in there with, cutting through the red tape and just said, hang on, let's put this in perspective. Let's take them over to the exhibition and let the world see them in the context of the Sydney bid. And I think that just would have guaranteed Australia being there. And I think it would have, in some way, negated the embarrassment of the Norman incident. I don't think, if the Whiteleys got out and about in the context of the Sydney bid at this particular gallery, I don't think anyone would be talking Norman. And at the moment, everyone is talking Norman in that donation.
Just Greg Norman, not Norman Lindsay. No. On the Life, it's time to approach the new reinforced steel cage very, very, very carefully with a large piece of meat and a big stick. Because once you let this next man loose, there's no telling where he'll turn and snap. I can see him in there, in the gloom, lips drawn, eyes ablaze, teeth bared, growling at us. Let's rattle the bars of his cage and see if we can't, get him to give us all a little nip. I'll do it quietly and calmly so as not to get him too worked up, though. Rampaging, Roy Slavin, how'd you see the week, son?
Thank you very much. Yes, working. Thank you very much, H.G. Nelson.
Make of this claim that Warren is now the sexiest man alive. Obviously, they look at him, they can smell him, they've got him over there in their clutches. And it is a big rap, though. Can the boy deliver?
I think he can. I think Shane has emerged as a very, very creditable, sexy young Australian man.
Fit.
He's very, very fit. He's not shy about spreading himself about. I know he's in the dressing rooms. He's often walking around with just a cap on, and he often opens the dressing room door up just a little, just opens a little crack there in the door, and allows a bit of himself, not only his nose, to poke through. Now, I know the press and
Love
it, and a lot of people find that very, very alluring to see visitors, i.e. Australians, door open just a little bit, and two bits of a fit player, poking through. One being the nose, and one being a little bit south. I know it's very attractive, and I know that Shane has been doing a lot of this sort of work, and I think it's got to be good for Australian cricket.
It's a lot better than the captain. There's a lot better example than the captain.
Oh, yes, than the captain, just, grabbing him by the hair, pulling him back and saying, bugger off, you lord. I think that's embarrassing. They don't want to see Captain Grumpy storming out. They'd rather see a fit young Australian with
2 points of interest.
a lot of equipment. So to see a scientific fighter like Calvin, we don't see many scientific fighters out here.
I think it's going to be a scientific bout.
I think it will be. He's described himself as a fistic surgeon. He treats his gloves as scalpels.
Brucey Shepherd.
As scalpels, yes. He, had Victor Chang been with us still, Victor would have been there because he loves watching his work, precision work. He can hit wings off flies, so they say. I've seen him retack a boot with the gloves on. I've seen him strip, with the gloves on, a Stromberg dual-throated
Carburettor.
Yeah, and blow the jets out just with the fists. He's a very precise, he doesn't, pick a part of the face. He picks a paw that he wants to hit. And if Jeff's got, a bit of a gumpy or something, he'll work on that. Let's say he had a blinder coming up, on the chin somewhere. Say a two-header coming.
Oh, that'd be tremendous.
Well, that is just like a beacon to someone like Calvin Grove.
How far do you think you could get the spurt on it?
He'd get the spurt coming up very, very early. He'd work on that.
And let it go, say, in the third round?
Yeah.
Sort of spot somebody in the ring, move him into that position, obviously opposite, then go bang like that, and
That's right.
Get the head over on somebody about 12 rows back?
Yeah. And there's nothing like getting, when you're expecting red and you've turned up in your white, to get a bit of cream is a real bonus.
Shark hunting! And you can resume your seats and put the sick bags back where they belong because our very own Vicky Hislop is on the job. He's flown up to Hong Kong this weekend with one thing on his mind: tigers. Not Balmain tigers, not 1969, but tiger sharks. When he arrived with a shark tooth necklace and the Great White Cannon, i.e. a modified 303, slung low over the buttock, he simply breathed through customs, took a sniff off the air, a sniff of the Hong Kong air, and as the waters of Hong Kong harbour turned red with sheep blood and offal, Vicky looked up, grinned, bared the teeth, and in an exclusive for This Sporting Life said, "Hope Stu, tell Roy I'll have this bugger in the bag within the week, or you can call me Sheeds." At week's end, there was just one big fish that hadn't been bagged and tagged apart from the killer Vic was after. It was a rogue orange roughy that had gone feral and turned killer. The big names in the caper had a handle on the bugger. They had just simply named it, "Can This Really Be Today?" Stay with us as we boat out, bait up, blood the water and bag it in a feeding frenzy on the hook of death sometime in the next 4 hours right here on This Sporting Life. AM in the soundproof booth, and nice to see you pick up an Order of Australia Medal, King, in the General Division last Monday for services to violence in sport. It was well deserved, Wally, long overdue, and a timely reminder to all of your record, skill and ability to absorb and dish out pain, which has put enjoyment with a capital E back into all the codes you have graced so effectively with your presence over the last 30 years. King, what people forget is that synchronised swimming, table tennis and darts were considered basically non-contact sports that hardly featured in the weekend death tolls or injury reports until you, yes you, King, came along and showed the world that a simple but essential ingredient was missing from these sports, i.e. gratuitous violence. And the spirit with which you received the award last Monday on the Queen's birthday holiday. And what are we going to do with our awards when the Queen's birthday holiday goes for a Burton? Anyway, King, simply you waltzed up to the dais, set yourself for a big fiddle with the night tools to get it all comfortable and packed away Prince Albert style. Then, wiping the stingers away from the back door with a handy Australian flag, you planted one on Bill Hayden as he dished out the gong. Magic, King. And the memories, King, as they came flooding back with all the film clips, etc. of your great highlights of your career. Incidentally, King, don't feel bad about Bill. It was one of the best rights ever thrown in Asia, King. Hundreds of people came up to me afterwards and said how much they had enjoyed it. And let's face it, King, Bill Hayden had been asking for it all day. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, bibs and bubs, snuggle pots and cuddle pies, and welcome to another 4 hours on the bags, getting fit, getting super fit for the next of the big ones. That is the big day in tomorrow on This Sporting Life. No matter where you're plonked on the Triple J, you network grid. We hope you can stay with us for the next 4 hours on a weekend. We don't matter about it, Well...